Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld Podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we are hot off the last D23 Expo. We're going to be talking about all the breaking news out of that, including a new trailer for Ahsoka Season 2. Super stoked to get into that. My name is Chris. Joining me, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yeah, exciting things out of D23, following up the exciting things out of Rebel Scum Con, following up the exciting things out of San Diego Comic-Con. And with all of these conventions, I have been getting jealous because I have not been at any of them. And while there's no big convention that I know of happening this weekend, the following weekend is Fan Expo Canada. And while I still have your attention here at the beginning of the show, before we get into all of the exciting news, let me quickly plug on Thursday, August the 27th at 4:15 p.m. in room 703. Everybody come out to see Star Wars The Untold Stories. This is my panel. I've done it a couple of times. This version will be updated with some new fun stuff. It's where we talk about all the Star Wars things that didn't happen. So while we'll be talking about Star Wars things that will happen tonight, come out next Thursday before the show and hear all about the ones that didn't happen. So Star Wars The Untold Stories next Thursday, 4:15 p.m. Fan Expo Canada here in Toronto. Come on out. It will be great. All right. That's not going to be the last time I plug it. I'm going to plug it a few more times during the show, but it's the last time for now. We got a lot to talk about. It's going to be a great show.
You can also bring your birthday gifts for Dom to this panel as well, because happy birthday! Your birthday is coming up in a few days.
That is true. That is true. That is true. Thank you.
Also, here it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Yes, I love weeks when there's literally so much stuff. I put it all in the show notes, and I'm like, we're not even going to get to half of this because, for one, we have a trailer to break down. And then I did the show notes yesterday, and like there's stuff that came out today. There's stuff that's not even in the show notes that I know we're not going to get to. So, and then next week we won't have anything because it's either feast or famine around here for us Star Wars fans. So, it's a good problem to have. I shouldn't be complaining, but I will anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we've been feasting pretty good lately with Star Wars, and I think even though we've gotten so much good stuff, there are some things that we still wish would happen. And where I want to start, like, yes, I know we have Ahsoka to get to, and I know we're going to talk some Starfighter things, but what I think we should start with is one of those untold Star Wars stories that we would like to see become a told story, because Dave Filoni, president of Lucasfilm, he was out at D23 last weekend. He was mainly there to promote Ahsoka Season 2, also promoting Star Wars Starfighter. But of course, he had to face the press. He had to face the Fifth Estate and answer some questions. And of course, they asked him about that movie that we've spent a lot of time ranting about that didn't happen. Star Wars The Hunt for Ben Solo would have been directed by Steven Soderbergh, starring Adam Driver. Well, Dave Filoni was asked about it by Variety, and I think we should not just listen, but take a look at his response, because the words and the actions may not exactly match up. So here is Dave answering the question from Variety about the hunt for Ben Solo last weekend at D23.
Okay, what about the hunt for Ben Solo?
You know, someone was going to ask me that in this line. I'm surprised it took this long, so that's really cool, you know. So, but, you know, we're not making that picture right now. That's all I can say.
So for those of you that are just listening, what you missed was Dave holding up two fingers, waving them across the face of the interviewer in a way that, you know, so you might do that if you were saying you don't need to see his identification. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Jedi mind tricking us into believing that the hunt for Ben Solo is not being made. What do we make of this? Is Dave messing with us? Or is there something there? Ben, actually, you know, this is a game we haven't played in a long time. Something there, or make a relax. What do you think is happening here?
I look, I'm always going to lean in the optimistic direction. Even though when it comes to development of new Star Wars films, I can be surprisingly cynical. I'm going to say this is something. I'm going to say this is something. I think I agree with a lot of people that have already said no. Like, he could have just said no. He could have just said, no, we're not doing that. But Filoni is like, no, we're not making that picture. And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, that's not a no, guy. There's something there. I want to believe. Okay, it's you know, I'm put up the poster about the aliens. Like, I want to believe. Except on the poster it's Ben Solo. Like, I want to believe. Filoni is they're reading between the lines that there's something happening.
Something happening, Chris. Something there. Make her relax. What do you think?
I agree. I'm very biased about this, so there's no way I can interpret this as being nothing's happening. Like, clearly there's something there, and you know, I don't know. Literally, all I'm going to do is just launch into a rant about why this movie needs to be made. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it. There is a possibility that Filoni is not just, you know, doing an Obi-Wan from A New Hope. He might be doing an Obi-Wan from Return of the Jedi. There might be a bit of from a certain point of viewing going on here. Simon Kinberg is writing a trilogy. A lot of people say that's probably episodes 10, 11, and 12. Could it be that ideas from The Hunt for Ben Solo or the New Jedi Order Rey movie that's probably not happening? Is it possible that concepts from those get folded into Kinberg's movie? Yes. Yeah. But I'd like to believe that Filoni knows exactly what he's doing and is out there giving us a little hint that, you know what, you come out to that Star Wars Celebration event next year, and we might have something for you. We might have Adam Driver on the stage. We might have Steven Soderbergh on the stage. We might have an announcement for you. And in fact, I've thought of exactly how, if I was Dave Filoni and Lucasfilm, how I would make this announcement at Star Wars Celebration. So let me pitch that to you all right now, and so that you will be disappointed when he makes it in a different way next year. It'll be at the Lucasfilm Showcase, right? This is their big panel where they preview everything that's coming out from Lucasfilm, and they'll talk about Starfighter, and they'll talk about Maul Shadow Lord, and they'll talk about some other things that we haven't heard of yet. Maybe that Thrawn, maybe the Thrawn crossover movie show event, whatever you want to call it. They'll do all of that, and it will seem like the panel is over, and Filoni will be like, "This is it. Thanks everybody for coming out." And then from backstage, 2 First Order stormtroopers will walk out, sort of like the guys that used to wander around Galaxy's Edge and be like, they'll wander out there and they'll look around and they'll stop him from ending the panel. They'll say, "Hey, you can't end the panel yet." And Dave will go, "Hey, you guys got to listen to me. I'm the president." At which point, one of the First Order stormtroopers will say, "We don't listen to the president. We only answer to the supreme leader." At which point, the music will blare. It'll be the Kylo Ren theme. Blah, 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 blah. At which point, Adam Driver will walk out, possibly carrying the crossguard lightsaber. Maybe, maybe not. He'll walk out, he'll look at Dave, and he'll go, "We're not done yet," just like he does in the movie. And then they'll announce the movie and they'll show the title card and everybody will go crazy. And that's how I would do it if I was
writing this
Star Wars
down,
Celebration.
Lucasfilm people, are you writing this down?
Yeah, there you go. So that's how I would do it if I were in charge of Star Wars Celebration. But I'm not, so it'll probably be different and hopefully better. All right. Let's get into things. We will talk about the Ahsoka trailer in just a second, but first let's plug some things and then let's go.
If you're watching on YouTube, punch that subscribe button. Chewy, you can super chat with us if you're chatting live, and if you're not watching live, you can support us by becoming a channel member and joining the TK squad over there. Also subscribe and leave us a review if you're listening on a podcast app. Make sure you check out our Discord. Link is in the description. We got watch parties and game nights, lots of fun stuff over there. And make sure you check out all the other shows we have on the network. We got the Raeside and Iron Cannon, which have lots of coverage from Rebel ScumCon, as well as Tales from Beyond the Galaxy Tractor Room and more.
All right. We will talk now about the Ahsoka Season 2 trailer. This, of course, was, I think, the biggest thing out of D23 for Star Wars. We will also get to the Starfighter news in a minute. But let's just get some initial impressions. And Ben, I've already asked you to go first on something. So, Chris, we're going to go to you first on your thoughts on the Ahsoka Season 2 trailer.
Ahsoka is a fascinating show. I feel like it's actually become one of the most polarizing shows. Because I really ever in the past few years since the first season 1 came out, I tend to either hear this is like my favorite new Star Wars thing, or this is one of the ones I'm more like lukewarm on from people. Not necessarily hating it, but just like So I definitely feel that after watching this trailer, my position in that is cementing a little bit more, which is I think it's one of the best Star Wars things that have come out. Like I love season 1, and this trailer got me really, really excited for season 2. I love that, I know there's a lot of comments from people about why not just make another season of Star Wars Rebels. Like I get that criticism, but at the same time, I'm like, this is that. This is Star Wars Rebels. Like, yes, it's called Ahsoka. It is kind of interesting that they just didn't call it Star Wars Rebels Season 5, Season 6. But at the same time, I understand they want to differentiate between, I guess, the live action show and the animated show. But it's like we're getting another season of Star Wars Rebels, which essentially means we're getting another season of the Clone Wars, because Star Wars Rebels is just a sequel to the Clone Wars. And that becomes very evident here in this trailer, because not only do we have Rebels and Clone Wars characters in the present, but also in the past as well, in these world between worlds type sequences that's happening with Anakin and Ahsoka, and going back into this Clone Wars like environment for these trials that Ahsoka is going through, and then picking up on direct Clone Wars storylines like Mortis and continuing that as well. Plus you have Thrawn right out of Star Wars Rebels, and all the other Star Wars Rebels characters. So as someone who loves the Clone Wars, as someone who loves Star Wars Rebels, as someone who loves the first season of Ahsoka, I love this trailer. I thought it showed all the stuff that would make me excited for season 2 and more. And it looks like an action-packed, but also very fantasy-based, interesting writing, interesting character development season. So my reactions are very excited, got me very hyped for season 2. I thought this trailer did a fantastic job.
Ben, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to back up, like, to not go over, old opinions here, but like, Chris reminded me that, yes, I am also in the, I definitely have heard a lot of the discourse I think that you have is just like, There's people that don't like this show. There's people that really, really like this show. There's not a lot of, it's like the Last Jedi of Star Wars shows, in some ways. I'm definitely in the positive camp. In fact, I would dare say, I think this show might be my favorite of all the shows. Yes, even more than Andor. Not that I think this show is better than Andor. I just think it's my personal favorite, because it gives me some of the things that I, didn't get from Andor. I think the increased fantasy element in Ahsoka really drew me in. Yes, obviously season 1 had its issues. I'm hoping those will be resolved in season 2. It looks to, so far that this new trailer is giving me all the season 1 feels, and hopefully closing any reservations I might had that, it could go back to some of the less than stellar things the season 1 did that I was personally not a fan of. But like visually, it's stunning. It's continuing the story. We've got all these different new elements, flashbacks from just giant space battles, which I didn't know how much I missed, like a giant space battle. And this trailer's like, oh wow, that's really cool. I like space battles. Those are really cool. We didn't really get one in the last Star Wars movie. So that's pretty cool. Lot of really, really interesting elements that I'm looking forward to like properly getting into, and just like it's like, okay, this season feels big. I don't know what the future of the Mandoverse is, but like weirdly feels bigger than the Mandalorian and Grogu, which I know we've already had that discussion, but like, in terms of scale and what's happening and what could happen, this feels like this could be huge, and that's very, very exciting.
Yeah. So you both have alluded to the fact that this show seems to either be people's favorite or least favorite, and that there's a lot of you either fall into one camp or the other. I am very firmly in the camp that this is my least favorite of the live action shows.
Wow.
I rewatched it. I rewatched all the seasons of Mando. I rewatched Book of Boba Fett, and I rewatched Ahsoka leading into The Mandalorian and Grogu. And I came away from season 1 of Ahsoka so frustrated. Because if you just wrote down for me what happened, like if I read what happened as a description on Reddit of like, here is what's going to happen in season 1 of Ahsoka, I would be like, that sounds like the best show ever. I'm so in. I'm so excited. And then I watch it, and with the exception of episode 5, with the exception of Shadow Warrior, the Anakin episode, I either feel nothing or I feel frustrated. And I think it was technically the weakest of all the shows. There's some cinematography and choices and some editing choices and things that do it no favors, and the show looks the worst of all of the shows that we've gotten thus far. And I hate to say it, the performances are not good either.
Ooh.
There's a couple of good ones. The late Ray Stevenson was good.
Oh.
And Lars Mikkelsen is good. And that's where the list ends.
Ooh.
It's where the list ends, as far as I'm concerned. I don't mind Natasha Liu Bordizzo. I don't mind Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I'm not gonna count like Paul Sun-Young Lee or the kid who plays Jason. Like, they're just not in it enough. I'm not gonna count. Same thing. I'm not gonna count the guy who plays Senator Ziono. I'm not gonna. And I'm gonna leave Hayden out of that for now. But I felt like, on Clone Wars, Hu Yang was such like a fun and vibrant character, and in this show he's very reserved, and I was sort of like, okay, where's the fun version of this character? And I will say I don't like Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka.
No.
I know the argument that she gets that she's supposed to be miserable for the first half of the season and that she turns back into the Ahsoka we know in the second half. I need someone to point out where it's any different because it's really the same to me. So as much as I like it, and it's because this is the thing with the show, it is strictly to do with the execution because the ideas are all ideas I like. I love the idea of Thrawn. I love the idea of Night Sisters. I love the idea of another galaxy. I love the idea of looking into Mortis. I love the idea of training someone who isn't quote unquote force sensitive to be a Jedi. I love all of that stuff. I love continuing Rebels and Clone Wars and all that stuff. But man, it's a boring show to watch outside of episode 5. I hate to say it. So so that's where I'm coming at this trailer from. Is I look at it and I go, there is so much potential here. Again, it seems to be doing all the things I want it to do. But this season has to win me over. It really, really does. Because the first season just didn't have the magic. It didn't have the secret sauce of Star Wars. It was like an attempt to do something. And, I give them credit for swinging for the fences. But boy, they swung and missed big time. With, again, the exception of episode 5, which is the episode I will hold up as, that's the one place where it lived up to its potential. So that's where I'm coming at this from is you got to win me over. You got to convince me that the show is going to be worth it. Because season one really, I came away from season 1. I'm like, this show needed either more Jon Favreau to give it some energy, or it needed like a Tony Gilroy to come in and punch up the scripts, or it needed another voice in the room. As much as I love Dave as a creative and storyteller, what he did so well on Rebels and Clone Wars to me did not translate to the show.
Fascinating. No, it's so interesting because we have a lot of people that will guest host on our show in the comments that are agreeing with you, and it's definitely showing that there's a stark divide, in fandom, and it's not the same as the Last Jedi divide where it gets a little weird, or the Acolyte divide, which also gets a little weird. It's just a general, people either feel this way or that way, and it's weird because it's interchangeable for a lot of the shows too. Like most of the reasons that you cited, that reasons why you weren't too hot in season 1 of Ahsoka were reasons why the Obi-Wan show is one of the least high-ranking shows for me. Like I feel kind of the same way about the execution of that show as you do about Ahsoka. Whereas again, I like the ideas of the Obi-Wan show. So it's really interesting how we stray on that. I'm kind of looking forward to also watching season 1 again in preparation for season 2 and seeing, if I could see more of those arguments, because I definitely didn't see it when it was airing. When it was airing, I was like, oh, this is great. I remember very, very keenly. So,
and I know people can go back. I know people can go back and hear what I said at the time. And I think I was more into it when it first came out.
I think you were, yeah.
But even then, I knew something was off. And the moment that I knew it was off was when in the finale, when Sabine calls for the lightsaber with the Force, and it comes to her, or is it a blast or something? She calls for something. That should be the most triumphant, exciting. This is what the whole season has been building to moment. And I felt nothing. And there is the perfect comparison, which is at the end of The Force Awakens, when Rey does the exact same thing and the lightsaber comes flying to her and the Force theme swells. That felt like the culmination of that movie. It felt like this big grand moment. And the Sabine moment was meant to be that and then some, because there had been the doubt throughout the entire movie of if she could even do it. And instead it was like, yeah, okay. And that wound up being my feeling on the whole on the whole thing.
Yeah.
And when I went back and watched it again, it really, really stood out how, you know, how the show just didn't execute on the level that it needed to for me to enjoy it the way that I wanted to.
Yeah.
And to your point, like, and something you brought up with in regards to Rosario Dawson and her performance, like that was one thing that took me some time to get used to her performance, especially in the first half of season 1. I think like I think she's very good. Like I love the Jedi episode from The Mandalorian. I think it's a very good performance.
I like her in that. I'll be honest, like when I got to that episode of Mando in my rewatch, I was like, yeah, this is fun. I'm into it.
And like her brief appearance in Book of Boba Fett, it's fun too. It's, you know, it's very Ahsoka. But I think you get to Ahsoka, the show Ahsoka, and it's like this very like dour version of Ahsoka. And I'm not placing this at the feet of Rosario Dawson. Rosario Dawson is a very talented actor. She can do anything she sets her mind to, and she's proven that time and time again. This is obviously a creative choice on behalf of our boy Dave Filoni or her or a combination of the two to play her that way. I do notice like a marked difference. I think, you know, once she goes through everything at episode 5, she plays it differently. Maybe it's not as Ahsoka as I would like her to be, but it is different. What the downside of this trailer that I will put out there is a lot of the shots in this are Ahsoka looking like she does right on our screen, dour and like pensive and just like, I know Filoni is attached to the idea of Ahsoka the White and her being this Gandalf figure. Gandalf was a funny character. Gandalf was like cracking jokes and you know, a wizard arrives exactly when he intends to be. Like, you know, he's not a dour character. And I don't want Ahsoka to get in this rut of just being like, oh, she's carrying the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. Nah, that's not a Ahsoka I remember. She's had a lot of trauma. She's had a lot of scars. She's been through a lot, but I don't think she's a character that is this serious. I think I want her to be the hopeful one. I want her to be the ones. And I know I'm sounding a lot like people that had a lot of issues with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. I know I sound like those people, okay? And they're entitled to their opinion. I'm entitled to mine. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but, you know, it is a concern of mine. I'm just like, I want this to be good. I want this, you know, I want her to be kind of come into her own as the character and have a marked difference because, you know, this stuff, it doesn't make any difference if you're not going to change the performance and have the character act different and see a difference between, they wouldn't season 1 Ahsoka wouldn't say or do the same things that season 2 Ahsoka is doing. Well, are we seeing a huge difference? Not in the trailer yet, but I'm hoping that changes.
It's okay. So the thing about Rosario Dawson for me is that I'm almost like unable to assess how good a job she's doing at portraying the character, and also how good that the character in general is, also from a perspective of the writing and the directing as well, because I have to compensate for the fact that I'm just always going to feel off about her not being Ashley Eckstein. Like that's the trick. And the reason why is because there's some characters where, yes, the actors did a fantastic job with them. Like a good example for me is like the actors who were the kids in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, you know, they all did a fantastic job as those characters. And when we saw the live action TV show versions of them and the Netflix live action show, you know, I feel like those were cast pretty well, and most of those captured the spirit of those. The reason why I didn't have that same issue with that I'm having with the character of Ahsoka is that Ashley as a person meshed into Ahsoka a lot more than typically characters and their actors do. Like there's
Yeah.
just something about the way that Ashley is as a person that made its way into the character of Ahsoka. I feel like when Ahsoka was originally written for the season 1 of the Clone Wars, she was very much her own unique character from, the conceptual minds of George Lucas and Dave Filoni and the other early writers and producers of that show. But I feel like when something kind of strange happened, where when Ahsoka started growing up, she somehow grew up as if Ashley Eckstein was one of her role models. Just somehow she ended up growing up a bit into Ashley Eckstein and who Ashley is as a person and her personality. And that just and mesh the actor and the character so together that it's just almost impossible for me to believe and visualize that anyone is Ahsoka other than Ashley's portrayal of Ahsoka. And so because of that, I always have to give some space to Rosario Dawson to do her own version of the character and not be careful not to always be constantly comparing Ashley to Ahsoka. Or see, I'm doing it right there. Ashley to Rosario and their versions of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of almost don't even think about that because just it's either turn it off or turn it on. Like if I'm critical at all of Rosario's performance, or if the way Ahsoka is written in the show, or the way that she directed, all these things, then all of a sudden I can't enjoy the show at all. I can't even process the show. I can't even watch the show anymore because I'm just constantly agitated that this isn't the Ashley version of Ahsoka. Couldn't you have just done some type of like motion capture with Ashley's voice over it, or some way to make that happen in a way where Ashley's involved a little bit more. So it's so difficult, but I understand that in that big space of me not being able to process it, there's going to be valid criticisms that aren't just, well, you're not Ashley, so you're not good. It's not because it's different. It's maybe things that aren't good. But that's I think the best way to say that is why I was spared of that problem, because I just suspended my disbelief and just ignored the whole thing because of that. Now, when it comes to the other portrayals, I never had that problem. And a good example is with Ezra. Like I think that his name pronounced just eluding me. Esmon Esfanti, am I saying that right?
Yeah, Eman Esfandi, yeah.
Eman Esfanti. Thank you. The second that he started talking, I'm like, that's Ezra. Like I thought he captured the spirit of the character extremely well. And so I do feel like there's some strengths. I think like again, the greatest weakness is probably Rosario Dawson. But again, because she's not actually Eckstein, I kind of almost give that a pass of like I'm never gonna like it, so I don't really care what she does. Because I'm never gonna think it's right, even if it's amazing. I'm not gonna think it's right because it's just different from that enmeshment. So it's such an interesting situation. But I will say again, it's such a strange thing with comparing how I reacted to Obi-Wan and how I reacted to Ahsoka, because I feel like it's all flipped. It's like all the issues that I have with Obi-Wan are the issues people have with Ahsoka, and it's weird I don't have those issues with Ahsoka, but I have them with Obi-Wan. It's so weird because it's the same thing. It's illogical. It doesn't make sense. Because the thing is, I'm having these thoughts of like remembering back to watching the show and being like, my nostalgia overpowered my critical analysis. Like literally being able to see these characters on screen in live action meant so much to me that I didn't care that they screwed up the execution of it. It was just so important to me that we got to see more stories with the Clone Wars and Rebels characters that I love so much, that are at the core of Star Wars for me and why I like Star Wars, that it's like I don't care that it was sometimes not, what would be the correct word? Emmy. There we go. Emmy award-winning stuff. For any of them. I didn't care that it wasn't Andor quality of acting and writing and execution. But again, for Obi-Wan, I didn't. It wasn't. I didn't give. I didn't have that same reaction to Obi-Wan. I wasn't like, oh, I love Leia and Obi-Wan and Anakin and Darth Vader and all these characters so much that I don't care that they're messing the execution up. I just love the show. It was the opposite. It was like, oh man, I'm upset because I was looking forward to seeing these characters again, and I felt like they weren't done their full justice because of the execution of the show and the technical issues that the show had, and some of the rough writing and pacing and all this stuff, all these same issues that most people have with, not most, but a lot of people have with Ahsoka. So it's so weird how nostalgia sometimes goes in and does a patch, and you're just so happy you're seeing the characters that you don't need it to be perfect, and then other times it actually works against, and you're like, oh, you ruined it, and how that fits differently for different people in different situations. It's such an interesting thing, and it's very hard for me to pin down exactly why I feel that way. It's such a bizarre situation. So strange.
Here's the last thing I'll say on Rosario is that even though I don't like the performance, I don't want this to come across as any sort of criticism of her and her talent outside of this role. I think she's very talented. I'd be very happy to have her lead another show or another movie in a different role. And I do think that at Star Wars Celebration last year, I found myself getting to listen to her speak in a way that I hadn't done before. I feel like because of the strikes that were happening when season 1 came out, we were robbed of getting a lot of really good behind the scenes material and a lot of interviews with the cast and crew for season 1. And so I felt like I didn't engage with the show in that way. And then I just hadn't since then. So when I was at Celebration and she was there and she was talking about it, and there were opportunities for her to talk, not necessarily long form, but more than just sound bites on stage. I did get the sense that she really does care and really does understand this character. And so like, it is kind of a shame to me because I feel like this is somebody who put a lot of work into this. And it just doesn't land for me. And it might be it's just you're not Ashley. Like that might just be it. Because of 7 seasons of the Clone Wars and 2-ish seasons of Rebels, however you want to look at that.
Don't forget Forces of Destiny.
And like Lego Star Wars and like all these things that she would show up in. It was a big deal in it and a big part of it. I'll also say I think it was maybe a little harsh on Natasha Liu Bordizzo. I thought she was pretty good as Sabine, or better than pretty good as Sabine. So I thought she portrayed that well, even if she was let down by other aspects of the show. And I agree about Iman Esfandi as well. I will say I agree about him. I thought he was very, very good.
Yeah, Iman is the standout and probably the aspect and the character that I'm looking forward to the most in this new season. But to try to put a button on this little Ahsoka Rosario discussion, just like because I'm thinking, because I know there's some discussion in the chat. I was just like, should this have been animated? And I hear that all the time. It's like, should Ahsoka have even been live action? And I'm just like, I feel like this show was inevitable, that this whole thing that we're on right now, it was inevitable. Ahsoka was a big enough character that she was always going to make her way into live action at some point. That Dave Filoni was going to want to, not only do live action directing and filmmaking himself, but also want to put one of the characters that he helped create in the forefront. And, to top that off, I'm not sure if Ashley really even wanted to play her in live action. Clearly, Ashley has more aspirations and other things. She's a very successful businesswoman, her universe, all that kind of stuff, and her whole thing. And much respect to her do this. Like, how it is a huge commitment, not just to filming, just like all of that makeup is really intense. I've heard, all these actors that have done that, horror stories. So like, I feel like Rosario was probably the best we were gonna get, even if you do want to like really nail, drill down and like psychoanalyze her performance and who she is as a performer. I think she's probably the best we were gonna get in regards to that. My whole hope and my concern is just like find more of Ashley's Ahsoka in her performance. I hope that they can find that joy to the character that I think was there to the beginning. I think just because Ahsoka grew up and she lived through the Clone Wars and was dealing with all this kind of stuff, does not mean that this whole sky guy, all this kind of stuff, that portion of her never died. It's always a part of her, and I hope they find that, childlike wonder that's in Ahsoka that made us fall in love with Ahsoka all those years ago. And yes, we fell in love with Ahsoka the moment we saw her, right? we didn't complain or nothing. No, but yeah, I'm overall hopeful about this new season. I'm not pessimistic. I'm very much looking forward to it, but I am just like, there's some problems. I hope they fix them.
And to be fair, I'm not looking forward to the season. Like, I'm going to be there January 20th. Very, very excited. Like, if we can't get a new president on January 20th this year, well, I'll take a new season of.
Don't cancel your Disney Plus.
I'm looking forward to it. I feel like I'm coming out this season in a way that I haven't with a show before. I think usually when I'm going into a Star Wars show, it's either with a lot of anticipation, like it's something I've been looking forward to for a long time, like a season 2 of Mando or season 2 of Andor, or it's something where there's like a curiosity there of what is this show going to be? What's it going to be like with Acolyte or Skeleton Crew? Whereas this time I'm kind of going into it going, you got to convince me that this is worth it. So let's talk a little bit about what is in the actual trailer, because there are some pretty intriguing moments. We'll start right near the beginning. That we get the confirmation that we're going to see more Clone Wars flashbacks. We see Ariana Greenblatt back as Ahsoka. Jeez, that's too many syllables that are too similar. With Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars era, fighting some weird looking dude with some weird looking lightsaber. Ben, what is going on here? What's going on? What are we doing?
That is just when you think lightsabers couldn't get any crazier. We all lost our mind when Kylo Ren pulled out that little lightsaber of his, and there's 3 of them. There can be 3 blades. Oh my gosh. Now this thing, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how this thing works, because it's a double-bladed thing, but then he opens it up and there's a blade, and it's like Darth Maul's lightsaber if you like split it in half. But if he opens it up, there's a blade in the middle. Yeah. And it slides, the hilt slide along the blade. I know this is Star Wars. I know this is space magic, but this is a little weird even for Star Wars, guys. And look, I'm all for it, but it is like a very how does that work? And what if he goes to grab the lightsaber and there's a blade there and the handle's not there? How does this? Okay, this is blowing my mind, but it looks really cool. I also love the theory. I don't believe this for 1 second, but I love the theory that this is Marok. This is Marok before he became an Inquisitor. I think that would be a visual downgrade, because Marok is just like garden variety Inquisitor, and this is like really cool Jedi, like coolest Jedi ever vibes. So I don't know what's going on here. I don't know who this guy is. He's fighting Anakin and Ahsoka. So is he a Dark Jedi? I genuinely there's a lot of questions here. I don't know.
Just looking at this guy with this weird lightsaber and the crazy eye makeup and everything, this is the most Dark Horse Comics ass looking character we've ever gotten on screen. I feel like I could open up a page of Dark Horse Comics from the late 90s, early 2000s and find this dude in there somewhere. But it is cool. And anytime they do something neat with the lightsabers like that, I'm just excited. I am genuinely just excited to get flashbacks to the Clone Wars era. I don't want or need a full Clone Wars live action spin-off series, movie, whatever. We've got the animated series. That's everything I could have asked for and more. But to get moments within this, within this show that take us back to those moments for critical character development and all that stuff. I'm very excited. I really do quite like the look of these sequences where Ariana and Hayden are taking on this guy. It does, for lack of a better term, look like live action Clone Wars, and that is really exciting.
Yes, and
that's great.
That, and I wonder sometimes how difficult would it be to create a live action Clone Wars? Like, we know there's still plenty of of Clone Wars episodes that were written that were never made into the animated form. Some of them ended up in book form or comic form, and some never were made at all. And there's obviously new stories to be told as well. So that's one of the things too that I'm very glad that season 2 of Ahsoka is going to include Clone Wars flashbacks and so many characters that came from either the Clone Wars or Rebels. But at the same time, it also makes me wonder, like, is this the best way to do this? Is it to have these flashbacks and these continuances of stories? Could we also maybe have some type of Clone Wars like anthology miniseries or live action movie or something to go back into that time? Because it kind of just all goes back into whenever we're talking, a common talking point is, well, they did it really well in the Clone Wars and they're not quite executing it. Like, let's just straight up just do the Clone Wars. Let's just do that, and then we'll execute it. Then we'll get it done. So that's always an interesting thing. But I'm never gonna be mad at Clone Wars elements in other shows because that's the best of Star Wars being infused in. So what could go wrong?
And this does Ben, this does play off something we talked about last week. We were talking about the costume display at D23, and this is there's the answer. It is a flashback to Anakin in this era on this snow planet with that jacket of his, finding out what's going on. Speaking of Anakin, like, he is all over this this trailer. Ben, I'll toss this right to you. Like, what do you make of the amount of Anakin that we're seeing in this trailer? What do you think of the fact that he does seem like he's going to play such a major role in the show after having an important but limited part in season 1?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's making good on the promise of the first season. I mean, the last scene in the first season, where we see, Force Ghost Anakin, watching over Ahsoka and Sabine. And like, this is something like Force Ghost Anakin fully in play in the story, what the story it is. Like, it's been something I've been wanting since 2015. Like I was on the Anakin needs to be in the sequel trilogy camp for forever, and probably one of my biggest disappointments from that trilogy is like the lack of his perspective, the fact that there's so much to be played, and the fact that George teed it up so perfectly. He's like, no, forget about Sebastian Shaw, who, like, all due respect to him, but just like, yeah, let's cut him out of the last scene and put in Hayden Christensen. Does this make sense? I don't know, but he's there. He's there in Return of the Jedi. So now we have canonically young Anakin, Hayden Christensen Anakin, playing Force Ghost Anakin Skywalker. Okay, yeah, let's play with that. Let's do something with that. And they've had him on ice for a while, and now he's back. And I think, Hayden Christensen talked about this last week, how he loves the fact that he's getting to play Force Ghost Anakin, that he's getting to play this wiser version of the character that has seemingly seen everything and knows, has had all these experiences, has gone from the light to the dark, back to the light. And I think it is interesting because, like, we had an interesting discussion, Dominic, a few months ago about, like, our perspectives on episode 5, and was that really Anakin? Was that what was that all about? Was that really him? Blah blah blah. I was firmly in the camp of just like, it was vision stuff. It was vision shenanigans, Force stuff. Wasn't really him. I think this will clear that up. Like this, there'll be no question. This is actually Anakin, and maybe he will actually answer if that was him. Which it wasn't. It
was. It 100% was, Benjamin.
No, we're not going over this again. We're not going over this again. But I think having flashbacks is great, but getting Anakin in the present day is just give it all to me. If the whole show was that, I would be happy.
Yeah, I mean, one of the funniest responses I've seen to this trailer is that Anakin is spending all of his time with Ahsoka and just ignoring Luke and Leia and just not doing anything with them because he's got too much to do with Ahsoka. Chris,
I was one of the persons who memed that, and people were getting mad at me because people were like, "Oh, how dare you insinuate that Anakin didn't spend any time with Luke and Leia?" I was like, okay, I'm sure this is like what 5 to 9 years after Return of the Jedi, depending on which day you asked Jon Favreau about this on. Like, I'm sure in the period of time, Anakin has spent ample time with his children. Now he's gone to hang out with Aunt Ahsoka for a while. I think Anakin is a responsible father. At least now he is.
Well, who knows? That's perhaps a good story for another day. Chris, what do you think of the fact that Anakin is all over this trailer? What do you hope to see or expect to see from the Chosen One in this season coming up?
I think, Anakin / Darth Vader has always been a key component to the animated Filoniverse. Like, when you look at Rebels and Clone Wars, Anakin's clearly one of the main lead characters of Clone Wars, and Darth Vader really became one of the most important characters in Rebels, as the show progressed. And so it makes perfect sense that in Ahsoka, a show that is a sequel to those two things, that you are still going to get a lot of Anakin, even though he's not alive anymore. And this Force Vision situation is a way to kind of hack time and make that happen. So it makes sense from that perspective of just what this show is a spiritual sequel to. Like it makes, or a literal sequel to. It just makes sense that there's a lot of Anakin. But at the same time, I feel like we're getting a lot of Anakin in the trailer because it's a safe thing to show. Because like we already had the reveal in season 1 that we have Anakin in the show. And so we already know about that. So it's not really too surprising, and it's not really giving away much that there's more Anakin coming because there's nothing really new there. So I think whatever elements of this show that they're kind of keeping in the mystery box that they don't want to put in the marketing, that they want us to be surprised at when we get to episode 3 or whatever, and we're like, oh, we didn't see that coming. Like, they can kind of run some interference for that by just giving us a bunch of Anakin in the trailer because it's something safe to show us. So that's the vibe I'm getting. Is like, it's not like the percentage of Anakin that we see in this trailer is indicative of the percentage of Anakin we're going to see in the whole show. He's not all over this trailer because he's all over the show. I think it's just a safe thing to show. I think we're going to see a lot of him in the first few episodes, as trailers tend to be made up of. And after that, I don't know. I think there's some other stuff down the line that they're hiding. So that's kind of my opinion why we're seeing so much of him, for those two reasons.
My hope is that we're seeing so much of him is because he factors into those things that we don't yet know about.
Possible.
People like to speculate, could Ewan McGregor show up in this? Could we get an Obi-Wan? Could Obi-Wan be part of this flashback scene? Like, then you get an Anakin and Obi-Wan scene. We get another one of those. Could Anakin factor into Mortis? I mean, he was a big part of the story the last time they were there, so why not this time too? That's my hope, is that I do genuinely hope that Anakin almost becomes another, if not lead character, but certainly an important supporting character, and is there for a lot of the season and a lot of the story. I would love to see like a Force Ghost just along for the adventure. I think that would be really fun and really interesting. We talked a little about that last week, but I think that'd be a really neat idea.
I'll ask myself, like, what does this show have to do to be the best Star Wars show? And it's a high bar because I will say that I think Andor's the best one for me. But I think one thing that could put it at least in the ballpark, at least give it a chance, is if they seriously actually do pick up on the Mortis storyline with all the character elements of that, especially with Ahsoka and Anakin, and tie both of them into what's going on with the characters that are seeking that out. So because at this point it's unclear whether or not those storylines are going to converge directly or if they're just going to kind of evolve and then converge later. So yeah, I think that would be a really interesting thing to put it, because I still am a bit frustrated with the fact that we did not really have a good follow up on what happened in Mortis. That we had 3 of the wildest episodes of the Clone Wars, and then it just returns to normal after that, and there's barely any talk of it. And the only thing that even comes close to that again is the further Christian Taylor episodes of that Yoda arc, where he goes on that bit of that Spirit Quest situation. So yeah, I think picking up on Mortis in the show, and not just a way where it's just off of these new characters, but actually involves the older characters and actually creates a through line of maybe some explanations why they went through that. I think that would give the show a chance to actually contend for the best Star Wars thing in recent memory. Will they do that? I don't know, and I don't want to put the expectation on it, because I feel like going in thinking I'm only going to like this if it does what it needs to do to be the best thing is, well, that's just Last Jedi all over again.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to be too hard on Filoni, because I'm genuinely one of the biggest Dave Filoni fans there is. But one of the things that annoys me about Dave Filoni is the mystery side of things. I'm not going to answer that because I want you to have your own interpretation of that, which I get.
I can't stand that.
But there's a lot of stuff that is he puts out there and he's like, oh, maybe we'll answer this one day. Okay, now's the time. Now's the time, Dave. Mortis, maybe give us some solid stuff. Maybe give us some answers. Not just for the people out there that are going to be watching this show. They're going to be like, what's a Mortis? I don't know what this is. They're going to be coming into this, very ignorant to this whole thing. They've never seen Clone Wars. But also for the diehard fans, they've been waiting 20 years for something more about Mortis.
Not quite that long.
No,
it feels like 20 years. Damn it.
15 years, maybe, but 20 years. You're not that old, Ben. Don't worry. Don't worry. You're not that old.
I feel like it, man.
Driver's time.
Yeah, I'm very optimistic that Mortis is going to factor into this. I think you don't do the statues at the end of season 1 if you don't have a plan to pay that off in some way. And I think that perhaps leads us to another bit of the trailer, which is we do get our first look at Rory McCann as Baylan Skull. The Hound has taken over the part. And we see him on this journey, kind of going through the snow, trying to get to this mystery, whatever he is after. But we are looking to see more from this story. What, Chris? I'll throw to you. What do you first? We'd only really get a real quick glimpse at Rory, so I don't think it's fair to judge him just yet. But if you have a thought on how he looks, let's hear it. And what do you think we might be going with this beyond just 15 years of waiting for Mortis?
Nothing seemed out of place with the portrayal of the character here. So it just really well for me when I was watching it. Didn't take me out of it or anything. So that's good. I do think, well, I think a very good indicator of how important the storyline is the fact that we're still getting it. after Ray
Mhm.
Stevenson passed, because we've had lots of situations in Star Wars where the storylines have died or with their actors. So I think the fact that it's so important to the story that it needed to go on and it needed to be the character needed to be recast shows that we're going to get some really interesting stuff that's going to be really key to what's going on. Um, it's hard for me to speculate
Mhm.
exactly how this is gonna factor in. But I guess the only thing that I can say is I hope that it's a situation where this is the only way to beat Thrawn. Like
Mhm.
that's it. Because I don't want Thrawn to be a weak character. And I think that his his defeat in his original appearance in the and to the Heir to the Empire Thrawn
Mm.
trilogy,
Mhm.
and the Last Command book, was I thought that that was very well written
Very
because
artfully done.
very artfully done.
Yep.
Precisely. I was actually trying not to say that to try not to pun it up too much. So thanks for adding
Whoopsie.
that in. That was not me. Yeah, no, it's like he's a character that is more intelligent than pretty much every other character, and so you have to really be smart to outplay him.
Mhm.
Extremely, you have to do something very cerebral to do it, and so you can't just have the Rebel Alliance, as they're apparently still being called. I guess that
That's what
makes
he's
sense.
calling them. Yeah.
That's what he's calling them. That whole
He's
part confused me because I'm like,
he's
wait a minute,
dissing
are we
them.
at New Republic now? What's going on? So that confused me a bit. I guess it makes sense that you wouldn't want to call them the New Republic because that cedes the power of the Empire to them and the verbiage of it.
Exactly.
So I
It's
get
all
how
he's
so
playing mind games with everybody
yeah.
here.
So I that makes sense. That makes sense now that I think about it a little bit. But he can't be beat with brawn. Like they can't just overpower him. Like
Mhm.
something unexpected has to happen, and perhaps involvement with the Mortis and the powers of Mortis and all that might play in somehow into this final battle that might may or may
Mhm.
not culminate this Thrawn story, and that's how I'd want to see it play in as something that comes from just left field, something that comes from like another galaxy and another dimension, and just completely blindsides Thrawn, just nothing that he could possibly prepare for, and then that's why he's defeated, and that's why inevitably he's not involved in the First Order. Like that's
Mhm.
what I'd want to see. um and I can kind of sense that. I can kind of sense them going in a direction. At the very least, I think the Mortis stuff is meant to help the heroes, not create a weapon that they have to overcome.
Yeah. There's two things. Like in Rebels, that's how they would always beat Thrawn. Is that
Mm.
it would be something supernatural. Thrawn would be
Yep.
on the verge of winning
Yep.
the tactical, military, realistic quote unquote battle, and then the Bendu or the space whales or like that's what would beat Thrawn. And if we're raising the stakes and he seems, one thing that is really interesting in this trailer is he does seem to be trying to counter some of this by having his night sisters fighting on his behalf, or having the night sisters fighting on his behalf, so like an attempt to counter the mystical with a mystical army of his own. But something that would be big enough if we're scaling this up to defeat Thrawn would be yeah, something that involves Mortis. The other thing is, if we go back again to Clone Wars, the ending of season 6 of Clone Wars, the ending of the Yoda arc, there is still a really there's still a line from Yoda that I think is really interesting that they have not explained, in a sense like they don't need to explain, but is kind of a something that I think is overarching for all of Star Wars, or it should be overarching for all of Star Wars. And Yoda says something to the effect of, open to us. There is a path that the Sith cannot access. It'll give us victory, not
Mm.
victory in the Clone Wars, but
Mm.
victory for all time.
Right.
And it seems that that path has not yet been discovered by the Jedi in the main storyline that we know of. But I have to imagine given how that Yoda arc got into such mystical and trippy ideas, that it would tie into the only other arc that rivals it in terms of mysticism and trippiness, which is the Mortis trilogy. And so when I see the quick shots of Balin, as well as Shin and Ahsoka and Sabine on this quest of where Ahsoka and Sabine seem to be following Balin, that to me, it just screams that they're going to, if not find the answer, find something that gets them closer to that answer, to find victory for all time.
Yeah.
Ben, what do you think? Do you have a quick thought on Balin in this, or shall we keep going with Thrawn?
All I'll add to the Balin situation is that I hope he's in it a lot. I hope Rory McCann is given a lot to do. I think, Balin was probably my favorite character. I think it was probably everyone's favorite character from the first season. Just because, I mean, a lot of that is to do with the late great Ray Stevenson and how great of a performance he brought to, and all the gravitas that he brought, and like the interest of the character. And like the fact that there is a lot of unanswered questions around him that I hope we get answered. I think Rory McCann is more than up to the job of carrying on that character. I'm so glad that Lucasfilm has been so allergic to recasting in more than one of their franchises as of late. I'm glad that they buckled down and decided to do this, because I think this is going to work. I think, obviously, from little we see of him, he looked great in the character. I hope he gets a lot to do. I just want to see more of this character. That's my only other worry, is that like we won't get enough Balin, because I think he could be a very pivotal part of this, and juggling all these different storylines. I think I hope, obviously, things start to come together now that everyone's separate by many galaxies worth. We can start getting a little bit more of a focused effort.
Yeah, when we first heard that Rory was taking over the part, I remember thinking like, okay, he's a different performer than Ray. Obviously, they're different actors, different acting styles, but I always felt that he had the right physicality to bring to the part, that he could match Ray in that way, and then build off what Ray had done and make the part his own. And certainly the first part of that, I think, has been proven true. You don't get a close up of his face in this, so I think if you just saw that silhouette, you'd go, "Oh yeah, that's Balin. That's the guy from season 1." And I think we're continuing, and I think that's a good sign. I think that's something for us to build on as we go forward.
Do you think that they're going to like do an in-universe explanation for the actor changing, or they're just going to assume that the audience is going to pretend that it didn't happen?
I hope they don't. I hope they just roll with it.
I really hope that they don't. And that's usually like, and to me, not just Star Wars, but I've watched other series that have recast actors in the middle of things. And sometimes the second actor is better. Sometimes they actually make a better choice the second time around. I'm not saying that they did that this time, but I think just rolling with it and owning it, I think you have a much better chance of the audience just accepting with it and going with it, as opposed to trying to come up with a reason, or trying to, say that, something happened, blah, 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 trying to come up with a story reason. I think just like life happens. People, how many umpteen James Bond movies did you guys watch? You just assume that was the same guy the entire time, from the 60s all the way up to the 2000s. You just thought that's the same guy, but you can't accept, whatever. Like, it's just,
James Bond never ages, never dies. Well, I guess he dies that one time, but he just kind of changes his face a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the war between the New Republic and the and I want to keep wanting to say the First Order, but Thrawn. this does seem like they are delivering, as Ben, I think you talked about this earlier, the grand scale where they have epic space battles that we haven't seen before in these shows. It does seem like it's a real threat. We see Hera involved, we see Ezra involved, we see Night Sisters involved. Things just look like they're going to be chaotic and crazy. What are we feeling on this part of the show? We've spent a lot of time on the Jedi characters, and while Ezra is there, this goes perhaps beyond that. What are we thinking going into this?
I mean, it looks great. I mean, I think this is something that we've been promised for a while now, for something that no one really considered, that there could have been just another war. I know it's Star Wars. I know we should expect more wars, but a war between, the Galactic Civil War and the First Order versus Resistance. I don't know what we're calling that now. We're gonna figure that one out. But like figuring that out. But like seeing this, I think, and like having the consequence of like, okay, yeah, Thrawn's back, and it's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. We're gonna see big space battles, big ground battles. Night Sisters versus you have Captain Enoch versus Ezra Bridger.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty dope. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I like that. I like that a lot. I can't wait to see that duel. That's pretty cool. And just, overall, just like seeing a lot of great action, I think, is something that, like, again, I'm just like, I don't want to rag on Mandalore and Grogu, but like, this is scale. This is huge stuff happening. And Mandalore and Grogu was a small things, small potatoes, as someone would say. I like that we're getting this stuff. Like the a TV show is giving us these giant Star Wars, wars in the stars.
Yeah, and I actually didn't clock that was Captain Enoch, so I'm very excited that is part of this. Because if I had like something else that was a little bit like, I was hoping for more, was I thought Enoch was such a cool design, and I really like the actor that plays him, Wes Chatham. I thought he was great on The Expanse. That I was like, going into season 1, I was like, I can't wait to see this guy do something. And then he's just standing there the whole time. So to see him fight Ezra and be part of it is exciting and intriguing. The scale of the action is really quite something to see. It's not something we've seen on one of the TV shows before. It really is like, this feels more akin to Rogue One than Mandalorian. Like, Mandalorian, we'd have like a dogfight between 2 or 3 ships. It was a big deal in season 3 when there were a whole bunch of TIE fighters in one shot. This is like, just, you look at some of those shots, it's layers upon layers upon layers of ships. It looks really, really cool, and it looks like it's going to be a battle that, it pays off what they've been setting up. I'm intrigued to see it.
Yeah, and like, you take just Ahsoka, like, I think Ahsoka, the appearance of the Chimera in Ahsoka season 1, I believe, is the first time we ever saw an Imperial Star Destroyer in this era, any of these shows. We always, like, the largest ship we ever saw in Mandalore and Grogu was like the Imperial Light Cruiser. And now in this shot, the Imperial Light Cruiser, little tiny dot down towards the bottom, and there are these massive ships and Home Ones in the background, and there's all things, and all the ship nerds on the social medias are just like losing their minds because of all of these amazing ship designs. I don't see a Starhawk in here. I know the Starhawk are like big ships in this era that were apparently created like during or after the Battle of Jakku. I don't know what things. I don't my lore, my post Return of the Jedi lore is not up to date, but just really cool, like, just to see this, like, this is Star Wars. This is Star Wars. This is exactly what I came here for. This is War in the Stars, and I'm very curious to see, like, I'm very curious, when actually this happens. Are we going to open with this? Like, we have Thrawn giving his big speech and being very open about like, hey, I'm back and I'm declaring war on the Rebel Alliance. He's dissing them. I'm curious, like, is this end of season stuff? I'm just, because it's in the trailer, it gives me vibes that it will be earlier on. And I'm curious how this goes. Especially with, like, we were just talking about Thrawn, like, how do we wrap this up? How do we actually, like, bring this to a close? Because I don't think Filoni's gonna want to kill Thrawn. He's not gonna want to take him out. It would be weird to, like, sideline him again, like he was in Rebels. But also letting him go forward, like, okay, does this war keep going? Is he at a commission? Like, how do they wrap this up? Because, unfortunately, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know if, I'm assuming this is the last season of Ahsoka. I'm assuming Ahsoka is a 2-season show. And beyond that, we don't know of any other films in this era. We don't know of any other shows in this era. There's a wild rumor out there that, maybe there'll be more animated stuff. I'm all for, like, continuing, like, do a Mandalorian and Grogu animated show. Like, how awesome would that be? Like, you can do anything. But also, like, yeah, if that's what it takes to keep the Mandoverse going and to tell the story that they initially set out to tell, because I'm not sure they're going to get that chance now, unfortunately, being that the streaming bubble is kind of bursting. I don't know where this goes, but if Ahsoka is the last we see, I think it's going to go out with a bang. So I'm very, very excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought that the conclusion of this story would be in a movie, but that's something we haven't heard about, that Dave Filoni movie in a while. And so now it seems like maybe this season is the Dave Filoni movie. Who knows? Maybe it's a situation that's similar. It's similar to the Siege of Mandalore, where it's like, okay, there's a planned ending to the story. We just don't know at what point we're gonna do it. And then it just so happened to be Clone Wars Season 7 that got the Siege of Mandalore in it. So maybe what we're seeing here are shots from something that maybe originally were written to be just the finale of the story, and potentially it would have been in theaters in a movie, but now it's not. Like, that's a very interesting concept there. But I remember when I was on the production crew for a short film, and I was asking questions about how the editing of the film was going and how it felt a little bit clunky and this and that. And one of the actors said something which was, in short, they said action sells. And what they meant was, hey, it's fine. We have a really good action scene. It doesn't matter if the rest of the movie's good. We have one good action scene, so that's going to make people like this. And that's kind of how I feel too about this show is, Clone Wars Season 2 had its ups and downs, but one of the reasons why it was one of the greatest seasons of Star Wars television is because landing at Point Rain, which is an incredible action sequence. And the same could be said about Clone Wars Season 4 and the Umbar arc as well. Both complete set pieces. And sometimes you can tell a story, and this is a frustration I have with Star Wars Rebels, and potentially a frustration that could be extended to the Ahsoka Season 1 as well. A lot of times storytelling is restricted towards plot and dialogue, and it's like there's so much more to visual storytelling and cinematic, whether it's in the theaters or on Disney Plus storytelling, than just the plot and the dialogue and the exposition. Like, there's so much more to it. And one thing that I think too is that one episode of the Clone Wars micro series with Captain Fordo in it, and that assault that the clones do on that planet, and there's not a line of dialogue. Not one. They're doing the little, like, military, giving each other signals with their hands the whole time, and that's the only communication that you see. And it's one of the best Star Wars things that exists. And so that gives me a lot of hope for this show, that even if they miss on some of the characterizations and the acting and writing and this and that, if they have a really good battle scene episode or a couple of episodes, like this, but like for 30-40 minutes, we're all gonna be very satisfied with the season just on that account. And so I'm very excited. I'm hoping we get another I'm hoping we get a landing at Point Rain moment for the live action shows. That's really what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. I mean, just another example, the season 1 finale of Maul Shadow Lord is very light on dialogue. It's very focused on just this extended lightsaber duel between Maul, Vader, and the other two. Why am I forgetting their names? Master and Apprentice. She's going to be
Iko Digo Daki and Devin.
Iko Daki and Devin. Yeah. They do all of that. Yeah, there's some dialogue, but without much. And that episode delivers because of everything it shows us and tells us about those characters without even ever really needing a line of dialogue.
Yeah, and that's what's funny about, like, and I've thought about this, like how from a certain point of view, you could argue that space battles and lightsaber duels and like extended action sequences are useless. that they you know, they're just things, you know, the Battle of the Heroes, Anakin versus Obi-Wan. If Obi-Wan just like opened with just cutting off 2 of his legs and with his arm, that fight could have been over real quick and could have just got on with it. You know, didn't have to be 20 minutes long. You know, you could have told basically the same story with that. But Star Wars is about spectacle. It really is. And also, yes, visual storytelling, not just 2 people sitting in a room talking. Okay, what did I do to upset you?
No, but it wouldn't have been just as good. The whole point, it's the Battle of the Heroes. It's these brothers that they've loved each other and they've grown up together essentially, and they know each other so perfectly, and that's why it goes on for so long, because they are literally matched.
I agree with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
It's what you said. It's visual storytelling. The whole trilogy is told in those 20 minutes. The whole story comes down to that. And it
exactly
need a single line of dialogue until the very end. That's the version you're describing. The Ben cut of Revenge of the Sith sucks. What are we?
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. I'm not saying I want that version. Far from it. I'm saying you could make that argument, but the point here that I'm trying to get at, and maybe I'm not explaining it very well.
I'm messing with you, Ben. I know what you mean.
No, it's fine. Is like you could do action in a different way. You don't have to do it. You don't necessarily need action, but it is fun. And also you can, if you're George Lucas or Dave Filoni or any of these people that are brilliant storytellers, they can tell a story with a lightsaber duel, with a space battle. You know, this all stuff is all important. And I think that can be lost in just being like, I think especially us as fans, as podcasters, as YouTubers, that we come at this and go like, it has to be the most economical thing. You have to do all this. You have to A, B, C, and everything has to fit perfectly. And you have things like, not really. It's, you know, yes and no. It can also, we're supposed to have fun, and space battles are cool. And even if you're not telling a visual story, I want to see some stuff blow up. I want to see people with 2 light sticks try to kill each other for a while. That's fun. I like that.
Yeah.
See people.
Yeah. The Death Star assault. You know, these culminating action sequences, they are the movie. Like, they're the movie. Everything about the movie distilled down into its essence and portrayed visually and through, you know, well, with the lightsaber duels, quite literally dance. But with the spaceships, like, that's it's a form of just visual movement of telling the story of, you know, the overwhelming might of the Death Star slowly chipping away at the Rebel Alliance, and yet they keep going. They keep at it. They don't give up. They are relentless. They keep fighting. And then Luke, who has been, you know, for lack of a better term, like flirting with the idea of mysticism and this higher power, finally gives himself over to it. And that's when he blows up, he succeeds in going the extra mile. Like that's the whole movie. The whole movie is told in those 20 minutes that that is the Death Star assault. And the same is true of, as you said, the Battle of the Heroes. The same is true of the Duel of the Fates. The same is true of all of these action sequences. It is the story of the movie ultimately comes down to those moments. That's where it's done so well. And again, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show has its flaws, and not everybody loves it in the way that they hope they would. But that final showdown between Vader and Obi-Wan, again, it tells the whole story of the show.
Pretty good.
And that moment where Obi-Wan is literally being crushed by the rocks that Vader has thrown on him. That is his past. That is all of the trauma that he has carried with him from the prequel trilogy, literally burying him. That is him at the beginning of the story. And then it is the optimism and the hope that he feels from having seen Luke and having met Leia about the future that allows him to lift the rocks and emerge again triumphant as, the Jedi master he was always meant to be. That's that is the show all bundled up in one lightsaber duel. Yeah.
I think
it's important. It's a key piece of the recipe.
I think variance is the key thing. Like you need a bit of everything, or it gets stale. You need those very action heavy episodes and moments. You need those dialogue heavy moments. You need in between. I think I've been thinking what was a good example of this, and it is a new trilogy that I'm going to invent.
Okay.
And we're going to call it the George Lucas Racing Trilogy.
Sure.
And
okay. All right.
The George Lucas Racing Trilogy consists of THX 1138, the movie, American Graffiti, and Star Wars: A New Hope.
Yes.
That is the George Lucas Racing Trilogy.
Perfect trilogy.
And that is a dang good trilogy right there.
Yeah.
If you like, I can only watch 3 movies. Those are pretty good 3 movies to only be able to watch, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's his first 3 movies, and you see huge variance in the balance of depicting action versus telling a story through dialogue in those. Because if you took all the lines of dialogue out of THX 1138, it would still make sense, and it would still be a good movie. You don't really need dialogue, and there's not a lot of it in it, and there's a lot of sequences without it. You barely need it in that movie. Now go over American Graffiti. If you take all the dialogue out of American Graffiti, that movie is no longer a good movie, and it doesn't make sense either, because it's very much about the characters and what they're going through and their relationships with each other, and it's a very character-based story. And yes, there's a few action sequences, but it's all about the situation that is built through the exposition of the dialogue and the tension built in, and that's good. And then you go to A New Hope and you get a balance of the two. Like, you can't take away the action, you also can't take away the dialogue. You need both together. It's a half a movie without the other one. And so Star Wars and Ahsoka and everything else, it can do it in each way, but it should, just like George Lucas said, variance in its first 3 films. I feel like the different episodes of a show, maybe even the different seasons, the different shows, need to have their own variance and balance, or it does get stale after a while. And for a bit, I felt like they were very down the middle, where you didn't have a lot of these bottle episodes that are very character based and a lot of dialogue. That they were worried about, that not hitting all the Star Wars check marks because not enough action and this and that. But at the same time, I think they also strayed away from episodes that didn't have enough dialogue in it, because they were worried that it wouldn't make sense visually, but or fit into the story. And I think Ahsoka needs at least one episode that is very, very heavy on the action and not a lot of dialogue, and show not tell. And it also needs an episode that is very much character driven, character based, a lot of dialogue, a lot of conversations happening, a lot of character development happening. And then I think it needs some in between as well that are good balance of those, just like A New Hope is in Star Wars. But I'm worried if you miss one of those things, I think it's gonna feel lacking. Like if you miss if you have too much dialogue in your action episode, if you have too much action just for the sake of having an action sequence in an episode that's really just about developing the characters and them having conversations with each other, that's going to be problematic. You still want to have an episode that's a good balance of those two as well. I want to see all three.
Oh yeah. That trilogy, the THX, American Graffiti, Star Wars trilogy, like that's the definitive George Lucas trilogy. If you want to understand George as a storyteller, you want to understand the evolution of George Lucas more than any trilogy of Star Wars movies or anything else that he's produced over the years. Watching those three movies, that tells you everything. Well, not everything, but it tells you a lot about George and his style and his filmmaking prowess and evolution. And just again to your point, I think a movie that did this really well at finding that balance between the dialogue and the action sequences recently was James Gunn's Superman last year. There's some really, really fun flying Superman action with crypto and all of that stuff. It's really great and does a great job of telling the story that way. But still, the most memorable scene of the movie is Clark Kent and Lois Lane in her apartment when she's trying to interview him. And it doesn't involve superpowers in any way. It is just two people having a conversation. If there's a VFX shot in that entire scene, it's maybe to change the time on a clock in the background. Like it is just like old school filmmaking, and it's brilliant. So that's what you're looking for, is that wonderful balance that
and I think as a kid I was all about the action. All about the action. Like that, the action sequences were what I lived for. That was what I like. You would fast forward through certain scenes to get to the battle of Endor, the Battle of Hoth, whatever it is. I think there's still a part of me that's still like that, but like as I gotten older, those just like two people in a room having a conversation, some of the best, like you mentioned, like one of the best recent years, like the Lois and Superman scene, like that's great, just as a general movie one. But a lot of great, some of my favorite scenes in Star Wars as of late are two or more people just having a conversation and acting their asses off.
Absolutely. Anything else we want to bring up about this trailer before we move on to Starfighter?
I will say, in a meta way, I think it's always the mark of good decisions made when there's so much to discuss, and that's true with both an episode of a show or a movie or a trailer. And I think sometimes the worst thing you could do as a creative is make something that no one wants to talk about. And I think the fact that we've gone on for well over an hour about this, only a few minutes of footage, suggests that for better or worse, this show is a very intriguing, interesting show where a lot of risks are being taken, and I like that.
Yeah.
I hope that everyone that likes season 1 loves this season, and I hope everyone that disliked season 1 likes this season, and I hope everyone's big and happy, and there's no complaints, and we all just agree that was great at the end of the day.
And I will say that this can be the worst show in the history of Disney Plus and Star Wars, and be in a situation where people would prefer to watch the both Ewok movies over this, and the holiday special and that little trilogy that exists amongst them. That would be completely okay if we get a 10-second cameo from RJ. It'll all be worth it. All we care about. We're right there. We're at the spot. If it's not going to happen now, is it ever going to happen? This is the spot.
Oh, just wait until episodes 10, 11, 12 come out. Then it'll happen. Then it'll finally happen.
I'll be calling for it then as well.
Yeah, good stuff. I am looking forward to the season. Premieres January 20th. Definitely something to look forward to in the new year. Yeah, I hope it can deliver in the ways that season 1 didn't. for me, that is. Let's talk quickly about the other big bit of Star Wars news out of D23, and that is Star Wars Starfighter. They did show some footage. They showed a 60-second teaser. We'll talk about that in a second. Was not released publicly in an official capacity, although it was very easy to find if you wanted to. I
didn't see that. I didn't download that from a social media site. That didn't happen.
Yeah, no. Joel and I weren't sending each other better and better copies back and forth on the evening that it happened. But what we did get officially is a logo for the movie, a new logo for the movie that really pays tribute to the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, since of course Star Wars Starfighter comes out in the 50th anniversary. The Starfighter looks the same. It looks very modern, but the Star Wars is a little blockier, a little taller than it usually is, and leaning back. It's a design you've seen before if you've seen some classic Star Wars logos, but they're bringing it back. They're making it retro and modern at the same time.
I think this might be the first time they've changed the logo in 50 years.
Yeah,
like actively use. Like usually you'll see that logo. You've seen that logo a million times on anything and everything, but never like on official promotion for a new Star Wars project.
Yeah,
like they never really use it in this way. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, they really haven't used it like since the 70s, unless it's like an intentional like special one-off of like, this is the throwback version of the Clone Wars poster, or this is the throwback version of the Rebels poster, and in which case you'll see it. The other detail though that we found out the main character's name. We of course knew that Ryan Gosling was playing the lead role. Well, now we know that character's name is Cade Oberon. Cade Oberon is our lead character, and he's got a pretty sweet looking logo that Ryan was wearing on a jacket on stage. The logo is the Rebel Alliance Starbird upside down with some blasters crossing underneath so that it gives it kind of a skull and crossbone look.
Why has no one ever thought of this before? This is brilliant.
It's kind of crazy that this is the first time somebody has done this. And I'll be honest, it took me a minute to spot that it was the Rebel Starbird. And like, I see the Rebel Starbird every day because it is literally tattooed on my body. And I like, when I look at it, I kind of look at it upside down because of the angle that I look at myself. And it didn't like click for me that that's what it was until like a second glance at it. I realized it's not just another sweet skull design. It's actually the Rebel Alliance logo. And I thought that looked really cool. So yeah, Cade Oberon, he's wearing this jacket.
Disney just have one question though about this. Are the people running Disney, are they idiots? Because why isn't this already in all the Disney parks? Why isn't this particular jacket on sale in all the Disney parks? Where is it? Do you not like to make money, Disney? Like, come on. Everybody wants one of these.
Yeah. I mean,
probably on its way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love it. I think I'd absolutely want like at the very least a sticker. I'd take a sticker with that on it.
Heck yeah.
So yeah, Cade Oberon's got this sweet jacket. They also did show off some footage from the movie. It's a little teaser. Again, it's not too hard to find online. It's not too hard to find actually a pretty good copy of it, but it has not been released officially. Have you guys seen it? I assume you have. And what did you think of it?
It's awesome. I mean, it doesn't really add much information to me about my thoughts on the movie because it's kind of what I was expecting based on what we knew about what it would be about, who would be in it. So there's nothing in it that was really shocking or surprising for me, but just kind of confirmation that this is going to be what we thought it was going to be, which is kind of like a fun, adventurous, movie. And we're really keeping this kind of going with this, Man Grogu this year and now Starfighter next year, of this kind of series of kind of more kind of lighthearted action adventure movies for Star Wars as it returns to theaters before we might get into some either darker, more mature, or just more complicated character-based stuff in the future. And that's not to say that they might not be misleading us. We might get more of that in this than we did in Mando and Grogu. But at this point, I do really feel like this is going to have similar vibes to Skeleton Crew. It gives me those vibes.
Yeah, I mean, for those who have not seen the teaser, or maybe you're avoiding it, maybe you don't want to watch it. Like, the gist of the thing is, like, it opens with like a short scene between Ryan Gosling's character and the Flynn Gray character. They have a brief things. There is a starfighter involved, hence the title. And then there's just the rest of it is just like visuals and a lot of different interesting stuff. A lot of interesting visuals, I will say. There's like some environmental stuff. I'm always very, very interested in when it's like, we're not just going to a desert planet or a forest planet or a whatever. It's like, oh, there's something interesting. I think that's what makes Star Wars special a lot of times, is just like, oh, it's not just a lava planet. It's there's an industry here. Like Mustafar like has a certain logic to it, and a certain like, they have capitalism here. They do stuff. So like I like that, like there's one particular planet, and I won't spoil it, but like it's water, but there's more to it than that. And it's just like, oh, okay, so that's like something's going on here. Maybe it's natural, maybe it's not natural, but it's really cool. Also, I wanted to add that this is something that Sean Levy actually put out there in one of his interviews, talking about Cade Oberon. Oberon, I don't know. We'll figure out how to pronounce that at some point. But Sean Levy said that Cade is from the wrong side of the galaxy, did not grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth, a little bit on the edge, a little bit of a working class background, comes from zero privilege. He goes on an adventure that somehow intersects his fate with the fastest starfighter ever built.
Pretty good. Pretty interesting. Yeah. I agree with what you guys said about the trailer. Like the little scene between Ryan and Flynn, like it gives you a little sense of who they are. They both feel like Star Wars characters, whatever that means. It has that feeling of like, oh yeah, we're watching something from Star Wars. And then the quick shots of the visuals. The cinematographer for this movie is Claudio Miranda. Our friend Din is a big fan of this guy as a cinematographer, and last week he was showing me some scenes from some movies that Claudio has done that could inform what we might expect from Star Wars Starfighter on the visual side of things. And one of the movies is Life of Pi, which has a lot of scenes involving water. And as you have alluded to, Ben, there is a very interesting water shot, and water that does not look like it's not going the way that water usually goes,
Water don't do like that. Water don't do like that usually.
Yeah. And so I'm intrigued to see more of that location and see the interesting and different ways that Claudio Miranda and Sean Levy have figured out how to shoot.
Location that we see from the first photo of Ryan Gosling and Flynn Gray on that raft thing.
Yeah,
that they shot off the coast of Italy.
Yeah, it would make sense. It would make a lot of sense. So that's what we got for Star Wars Starfighter. Again, there was Sean Levy said some interesting things about like the post Rise of Skywalker galaxy where this is set. He kind of explained it on Good Morning America. He says this is a moment in the galaxy where there is no sort of governing enforcer or order. Everyone is just trying to survive. Everyone is having to do what they have to do to survive. Everyone is having to do what they have to do to get by. And Ryan's character, Cade, is from the wrong side of the galaxy, and then goes into what you said there, Ben. This is post Rise of Skywalker. The Battle of Exegol has been won. The Sith Eternal and the First Order have been defeated. And yet it seems that without Princess Leia and figures like her, our new heroes of episode 7, 8, 9 have not quite figured out the political side of what comes after a revolution.
Not to get too far down this rabbit hole, because I could go on all night if you don't stop me. But it's weird how this particular thing kind of like lit me on fire because of the fact that it feels like Sean Levy like went into my brain and picked something out, because this is like this was my like fan fiction-y like thing that I had cooked up in my head in regards to what the galaxy might look like after Rise of Skywalker. And I was like, okay, logically speaking, both from a story perspective and just from a logic perspective of like, you have a galaxy and all these planets and all these people, the general public to everyone, like they've lived through the Galactic Republic to the Empire to the New Republic to now to the First Order, and now there's nothing seemingly because the New Republic was destroyed and then destroyed the First Order. So now they're back to square one. Like I would feel like, as someone who someone just a regular average Joe that lives in the Star Wars galaxy, I wouldn't want to be part of any of this stuff. I would be like, screw this. I'm not joining I'm not joining the new Republic. Okay. I don't want any part of this. I'm going to be off on my own. I think the galaxy, maybe even 5 years after, will be fractured in a way. You will have less organization, less of a central government. Maybe the New Republic does exist. We can assume that Finn and Poe and Rey and all those guys, that they did something after and they tried to set up their own government. That doesn't mean that everybody had to join it. Everybody wanted to join it. And I think it's also very interesting story perspective, and also a lot of interesting story ideas could come from that, of just like, okay, what does this galaxy look like? What are different types of stories you could tell in a galaxy that's like, oh, it's not one big thing that we're under one big umbrella. It's like you go across the galaxy, you're going to end up in this space, or this is whatever else going on. And Ryan Gosling, Kate Oberon, he's old enough that he's probably lived through a lot of that. So I'm assuming we'll maybe get his perspective on what that, but the fact that he grew up on the wrong side of the galaxy is, what does that mean? Where was he living? What did he fight in the war? He has the rebel symbol on his jacket. Did he put it upside down because an FU to the resistance or whatever else, because he's not a fan of theirs? I don't know. These are all very interesting questions.
And I would like to hear him talk about it with someone who was part of that, like a character that we've seen before and we know. I'd like to see that. And what you're describing, Ben, honestly, it sounds a little bit like some of the setup for Ninth Jedi. It's kind of getting into the Ninth Jedi was playing in a similar sandbox, and who knows? Who's to say? Yeah. All right, very quickly before we go, let's answer a couple of questions. Joel submitted several super chats, so let's do those, and then we will save the Discord Ask the SWU questions for next week, when presumably there won't be another trailer. Presumably, I think we're probably safe from no trailers for a little bit. But then again, maybe not. Maybe they'll drop an official Starfighter trailer soon. But that would give us a lot of time to catch up on Discord questions for Ask the SWU. But for now, let's get to the super chats, starting with this one from Joel, who says, my Ahsoka hot take: I want season 2 to go as Filoni intended, instead of being changed to quote unquote end the Thrawn storyline prematurely. Are we worried that that's something that Disney might do, that they might might have mandated reshoots to wrap up this storyline before the intended movie / miniseries event?
I agree with Joel. I am worried that this might happen, and I agree with Joel that I hope they stay the course. I hope they don't try to settle this. I want them to do, because and I say this knowing we could end up in an Acolyte situation where it's stuff's up in the air. We don't things for me. I would like something that's do what you were going to do. And even if I have to wait 10 years for some kind of follow-up, I'm okay with that. I just want the story to be told. And just like with the Acolyte, I'm just I'll wait. Okay. I'll wait for you guys to come to your senses and give us the Darth Plagueis Osha chimere story. Like, I'll wait. I'm fine with that. But I want that story to be told. I wouldn't want you to wrap it up real quick, because I've watched other shows and other universes really crap the bed on trying to wrap something up really quick and not fulfilling the story and just being like, okay, well, we have to end this now, so let's just like put a bow on this. And it just doesn't hit as hard, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want them to change it. I want to see the season as intended, and I want to see the follow-up as intended, be it a movie, be it a show, be it something in between.
If they're going to bring us back into the sequel era with Starfighter and episodes 10, 11, 12, and all this stuff, and they're going to do it by quickly wrapping up the entire Mandoverse with this season and then never going back to it again, they might as well not even bother with the sequels and that era, because you've just done it again. You've put out a really good story and then you didn't flesh it out. And so it would be incredibly frustrating, because I don't get the vibes that the story with the Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Thrawn, I don't get the vibes that that's anywhere sooner than 70% through at this point.
Yeah.
Like it's about in the middle point for me, maybe a little bit past the middle. But there's a lot more to be told, and one season is not enough to wrap all that up. It would feel rushed, and they would miss things, and it would be very unsatisfying, and it would be just like the sequels. It'd be terrible.
How and like what kind of vote of confidence is that in Dave Filoni? Like, you've just promoted him to be president and chief creative officer of Lucasfilm, based in large part on the success of The Mandalorian and its spin-offs that he created and co-created with Jon Favreau. And now the first thing you're doing is saying to him, actually wrap that shit up. We got to do something else. I don't think that's if that's what they're doing, I worry about Dave's presidency. Like that's kind of handicapping him from the start.
Let me also say really quick, and this is a hot take. Actually, maybe an ice cold take. Star Wars has already done this with Andor. Okay, I know, and I'm happy with what we got with Andor, and I know their original vision for a 5-season show was never going to work out, was never going to actually happen. And like it would have killed them to try to, it specifically Diego Luna and Tony Gilroy would have like died on set if they had tried to do 5 seasons of that show. I understand the logistics of it, but if there's anything, if you can try to manufacture one criticism about Andor season 2, is that it feels a little rushed. It feels a little like we're really trying to squeeze everything in here. And it's great. One of the best seasons of TV I've ever seen in my life. But you can tell there's more there. You can tell they were trying to tell a lot of story in a short period of time. And it's, largely due to studio pressure and Tony Gilroy seeing the writing on the wall of the streaming bubble bursting and realizing, hey, we're not going to keep able to make this show. So let's just do it and get it over with. I would hope, being that Dave Filoni is in charge, not fully in charge, but at least in charge of Lucasfilm, he would have a little more say. Me like, hey, we should actually, I don't know, stay the course and like tell our story, and like ratings and budget be damned. We're gonna tell the story and we're gonna finish it out as intended, because this is what we should do, not because it's gonna impress our stockholders.
Or at least closer to as intended. Andor was originally planned to be 5 seasons, but they went into season 2 knowing it was the ending, and they wrote it that way. I don't think they went into season 2 planning of Ahsoka planning it to be the ending.
No.
And if they did that, if they rewrote it, like they did with the most recent season of Doctor Who, like that was terrible. Like it was just horrendous what they did to that show, and all because they had to change it, because they had to force an ending onto something that was not supposed to be the ending. And so I would hope that if they say we need you to wrap it up, but we won't make you change season 2, but you're getting a 4-episode special event series to do that. At least then you can write it knowing that's the ending.
Yeah. I mean, the
exactly.
thing is, Andor didn't bother me too much because I put so much budget and so much time into making season 2 that it felt like, a series of movies, its own movie trilogy or quadrilogy. And so, because of that, I wasn't too mad. And if they do that with, the Mandoverse and end it with one season and put all that behind it, then it could work. But not as just a regular, like you said, something that was anticipated not being the ending. That's not going to work out so well. And here's the thing, like when they've done this before, I'll also say they've done this before, because look at the Clone Wars. It was the same thing. That ended initially prematurely. And I will say, with Dave Filoni in charge now, what we're going to get if they pull the plug on the Mandoverse. You're going to start seeing those characters show up in the sequel content, and then it's going to start competing for the story, because that's the reason why Rebels for me isn't as good as the Clone Wars, because while you tried to set up a separate story with Rebels that was really great with the new characters, you ended up with so much baggage left over from the Clone Wars that had to be dealt with because they never finished the Clone Wars at that point, that it took away from what the show could have been if it had just focused on the characters in that era. And I worry that's what's going to happen, because Dave Filoni has that tendency to want to continue to see the stories of his characters continue, which I don't blame him. You want to finish those arcs that you started 15, 20 years ago at this point. So they need to give him an outlet to do that. You have to wrap up Ahsoka's story. You have to wrap up Ezra's story and Sabine's story, because if you don't, we're going to end up seeing them at some point as older characters later on, and we're going to get Ezra the White as well. And then that's going to be taking screen time away from, the Poe Finn romance that we desperately need to see.
There we go. There's 2 more super chats from Joel. I think they make a really compelling 2-part question.
Yes.
But we are out of time. So we are going to save those for next week. They will lead Ask the SWU.
Can we do that? Is that a thing? Is there a button to do that?
We've done it before.
We can screenshot them.
Okay,
and then we'll.
As long as someone's screenshotting, I'm like, do I need to figure out how to do this on the Mac? I always forget how to.
Yeah, we're gonna screenshot them and lead the show with that lead the segment with that next week, because for now we have to wrap things up for this week.
All right, thank you everybody so much for watching, and make sure you also tune in to the other shows on our network, the Raeside Canon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, Tractor Beam, and more. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
Oh, it was my pleasure as always. This was a lot of fun. For as much as the Ahsoka show frustrates me in places, I do really like this trailer, and I am very intrigued to see where this goes. And January 20th cannot get here soon enough. I look forward to seeing that. And then, of course, May of next year when Starfighter comes out also looks fantastic. And then, hey, May 2028, I cannot wait to be there for the hunt for Ben Solo when it finally drops in theaters. One more time, let me plug my panel next weekend at Fan Expo Canada. Again, that is Thursday, August 27th at 4:15 p.m. in room 703. Come to Star Wars The Untold Stories. We're going to talk about Star Wars Underworld, Star Wars Detours, some unmade episodes of the Clone Wars. We'll talk a little bit about George's concepts for episode 7. And we're going to actually spend a fair bit of time talking about the first draft of The Empire Strikes Back, because that was setting up a very different trilogy. And we will talk about all of those things on next Thursday at Fan Expo. If you've seen this panel before, it's going to be at least 50% new this time. So please come out and check out the new version of it. Again, 4:15 p.m. It's room 703, Star Wars The Untold Stories, Fan Expo Canada, Thursday, August 27th. See you all there. And I may not be here next week because of Fan Expo. Hopefully can drop in for a little bit. But it's been a great show and can't wait to do all this again very, very soon.
Indeed. At Dominic J25, and I'm saying it right here that the year 2028 is the year that I will go to one of the big Toronto conventions, whether it's Fan Expo or the Toronto Comic Con. That's the other one. I will be at one of those in 2028. I can't say 2027 because there's too many other things happening already in 2027.
It's a lot happening.
Yes. Fighter, all these other things that. But 2028. Let's see here.
Hell, I'll do it too. Why not?
Yes, exactly. 2028. The Star Wars World shall reunite at either Toronto Comic Con or Toronto Fan Expo. It will happen because I've been wanting to go to one of those for like 10, 50 years, however long it's been that you've been going to them, which I'm sure is a while. Sounds amazing. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Oh, this was a lot of fun. Always fun to break down a new trailer, and obviously, D23 shenanigans. Always good to get some more news. And since it looked so much fun, Dom looked like he was having so much fun promoting his stuff. I'm gonna promote some stuff too. Hi, so buckle up, because I actually have some stuff to promote. You can check out. I actually mentioned it last week, but I want to give a little more details. The recording of Rebel Scum Pod is now in your feeds, and I just want to give a warning. You might, if you're subscribed to both the Star Wars Underworld and the IPC podcast, you will see 2 podcasts show up in your feed. Don't get excited. It's literally the same podcast over again. I'm just putting it out there. I gave it to everybody in the party, said, hey, you can release it on your own feed. So that's what I was doing there. So don't go downloading both of them and putting in your own.
Download all of them and listen to them all back to back to back.
Listen to the same thing twice. Like, that's fine. But don't get your hopes up that it's going to be something different. There's nothing different in there.
But here's the thing. Ben did something really tricky. You see, Ben exported both podcasts in mono. So if you want to listen in stereo, you have to download because one's the right side of the ear, one is the left side, and you need to get the full experience.
Brilliant. And look, if you want an incentive to listen to one or both of them, this is something Zach Arnold saved for the podcast. Zach spoke to Bryce Dallas Howard, and he was like, hey, your middle name is Dallas. You're in Dallas, Texas. Can you tell me why your middle name is Dallas? And she gave him an answer. It's wild. It's wild. So go. If nothing else, go listen to that. And you should have a good time with that.
I've already told that story 3 times.
It's out there now. It's out there. Yeah, sorry, Bryce, we're telling your story. The secret's out. Also, if you want to listen to more of me, I don't know why, but if you do, check out CultureCast, where it's me and Joel Davis over there talking about. Actually, I don't think I've been the one to bring up Star Wars yet on that podcast.
What?
I always bring out something else. Last week I talked about Jurassic World and Bryce Dallas Howard, so that was fun. So definitely go check that out on the CultureSlate feeds, and also check out CultureSlate and sometimes on the Star Wars Underworld feed on Instagram. All the clips. I shot a lot of video at John Boyega's panel because the dude's just super entertaining and a lot of fun. I had a lot of great clips out of that. So definitely check the feeds for those because we love Boyega.
Yeah, that was a fantastic panel, and highlights are certainly on there. Check that out. Ben Hart personally as well at Ben Hart with no E. A lot of convention coverage over on his personal account as well, so check it out. And you can follow me at Seek3Bill, but mainly I'm just waiting for MySpace to come back, and that's really all I care about. And that's the case with the Star Wars Underworld as well. We will be certainly over there when that happens at the SWU or whatever ats were back in 2004. I don't know if the ats existed back then, but however that works. Make sure you check out our Discord. Link is in the description. Thanks to everybody who subscribed, left a review on podcast apps and is a channel member. And thanks, Joel, for all those super chats. We'll promise we'll get to those other two next week. And of course, on your way out, make sure you punch the subscribe button on YouTube or follow whatever social media you were just watching this show on. That is it for Ben and Dom. My name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.